Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frost Buddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frost Buddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high quality double walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frost Buddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frost Buddy makes everyday moments from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com. And when you use that promo code SSS15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com.
You know, if you are a future pet owner slash wannabe pet owner, whatever it is, or current pet owner, whatever, they're fun. They always are. They always have been. But you gotta always keep your eye on them because they are always going to get into some mischief. Am I right? So, yeah. So, apologies for the delay earlier. Um, Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Welcome on into the Southern sports scene. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Make sure you all do us a favor and hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short here on the Southern sports scene. As always, guys, we want to thank our good friends and partners over at Frostbuddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com, use that promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. That is code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. We also want to thank our friends over at Chike Nutrition. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar in every healthy, hearty cup of iced coffee. Click the link below. Get yourself 10% off of your first purchase. And as always, guys, we want to thank our friends at Buzzer. Head on over to buzzer.com or download the Buzzer app today to get yourself a free opportunity to maybe even put yourself in a position so that you can become a verified creator. All right, lots to talk about tonight. And we've had a hell of a week, to say the least. Make no mistake about what we have seen throughout the entirety of this week. There's obviously the whole ordeal with Jayden Daniels, which we will get into. If you haven't seen my video about it, make sure you go on over to the YouTube page. Hit that like and share and subscribe button. Click on the video. I promise you, you're going to get some great insight. But before we continue on with this, I do want to get into some of the key topics that we wanted to talk about earlier today. So as of late, there's been a lot of additions to college football teams because of the Charlotte Swinney ruling earlier a couple of weeks ago. There's been a lot of guys that graduated this past year, was able to get a TRO, and now they're sitting here playing college football. Here is where I had the issue. It wasn't that I'm mad at the athlete, which I never was. Here's what the central issue was. It's the timing of this and the way that this was handled. When this ruling was laid down by this Colorado judge, there was a obvious couple of aggravations, but because of the new ruling, there's a lot of guys that are now eligible. But 3 days ago, the NCAA just released a statement from its chief legal officer, Scott Beerby, who says this: the 10th Circuit has ordered expedited briefing on our request for a stay pending an appeal. The deadline for the class members to file a response to the emergency motion is this Friday. The NCAA's reply brief must be filed no later than Monday, August 17th. In the meantime, the Wisney injunction remains in effect. So, yes, this is still a thing that athletes can do. They can still come back to college football even if they were in minicamp this year. Does any of this make sense at all to you? Is any of this even remotely close to being fair? Is it remotely close to being honest with the way that the NCAA is? Because all of this would have been avoided if in the 5 for 5 you would have included the class of 22. But the timing could not have been worse by the time that this bill was introduced, by the time that all this happened, and then you have a lawsuit at the beginning of the month that typically when you talk about suits like this in the NCAA, typically they last around usually you see the NCAA kick the sand a lot. They kind of shuffle their feet a lot. But with this lawsuit, there was a decision made really quickly. And it wasn't even from the NCAA or the courts. The courts ruled in the span of less than a month that class of 2022 athletes were eligible. Made no sense. Made no sense. So here is the situation. At this point in time, there's a lot of hatred towards the NCAA for this. Honestly, I don't blame them. Because the NCAA has dug themselves into a hole time and time again. And it just seems like they can't take any more with the way that the PCSA has gone on, with the way that you have all of these lawsuits that are continuing on. The NCAA wants PCSA passed as soon as possible so that they can get protection from athletes that want to sue the NCAA for stuff. Such as a Pavia case, such as a Nico Yamayalava case where he drives a private jet, which, let's just be real, the private jet was not as big of an ordeal as it was thought out to be. Let's just be real with each other. And it just seemed like we were not going to get a honest and straightforward response with the way that this was handled. The NCAA should have included the class of 2022 in this. Let's just be real. And the timing of it, with it being 30 days before the season, made it worse. And every federal and state court in the United States is going to grant the injunction and the transfer waiver. But the NCAA they've lost everywhere. Everywhere. But you have guys that are grandfathered in with the class of 2019, 2020, 2021, they're all allowed to compete with the extra year from COVID. You have all of these situations that is currently going on with class of 21 and 20 athletes that were competing in JUCO initially. They're getting TROs. So why the hell can't 2022s? It just doesn't make sense to me, man. And that goes to say that this 5 for 5 thing, the fact that it didn't include the NCAA or it didn't include the class of 2022, I think is egregious. I think it's a slap in the face to them. And the fact that they're not considering the red shirt rule to be in effect is absolutely insane to me. It is. So the NCAA has no teeth at this point. They've lost all the teeth since 2024. And they just can't take anymore at this point, guys. They can't. There is no way that you can convince me at this point in time the NCAA is in complete power. They haven't been in power for about a year and a half at this point. We're very close, depending on what happens in Washington with how PCSA is going. And myself and Nathan Bomber Brown had a very good discussion about this yesterday. Go check out the video. It's already uploaded. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. But guys, there was a lot of back and forth in Washington about this bill. And to be completely honest with you, I don't know if we're ever going to find common ground with this. I highly doubt it. It's they're going to market as a bipartisan bill, which it is. It's supported by Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell. But it doesn't address the main issue of college football, and there's parts of the bill that just doesn't make sense. How they're wanting a salary cap. They want all of these different changes throughout college football. And to be honest with you guys, it's just causing way, way, way too many headaches. It's overly complicated when it really doesn't need to be. It is getting way too ridiculous to the point where decisions cannot be made. You have the Big Ten and the SEC griping over how the bill was initially proposed, how there's not enough money in it for them. And we know that the media revenue and we know that revenue sharing played a big role into this. So now they're able to come to an agreement. Now that you have that settled, oh crap, we now have the antitrust lawsuits that haven't been fully addressed yet. So now you got to bring that up with your audience and within the bill. So where do you go from here? We essentially don't know anymore because this bill has been changed so many times. I don't think we're ever going to come to a steady conclusion and a bipartisan agreement on this bill. I don't know. I don't know if I can see a scenario where this does finally end up getting passed through the Senate and on the president's desk. I don't know, because it is a very divided bill at this point. It is split down the middle. There's people that love it. There's also people that hate it. And what's crazy is it's not even a thing where only Democrats hate one side of the bill, only Republicans hate one side of the bill. It's literally Republicans and Democrats have both come together and said, yes, we have our differences and we have our opinions about each one. We both want different things in this bill. It's a bipartisan issue that, because of that, it's very, very difficult to get the 2/3 votes it needs to go from the Senate and move it on. So who knows what goes on with that bill? There's still a lot that has to get through. Hopefully it can get settled as soon as possible. Because, guys, I'm tired of talking about this. I'm tired of dealing with PCSA and all this other stuff. All right. The moment you've all been waiting for, the long-awaited college football playoff bracket. It is officially out, and I know you guys are going to be mad. 3, 2, 1, let's discuss. All right, my top 4 overall seeds. And by the way, I know you can't see the champion right now. I will show that in a second. So let me change the boom. Boom. There you go. My top 4 seeds going into the college football playoff if this comes to fruition. I have Miami at number 1. I have Ohio State at 2, Notre Dame at 3, and Georgia at 4. That's my top 4. That means I have Miami beating Notre Dame in the regular season. I have Ohio State either going 11-1 or 12-0. And I know that probably one of the best Ohio State Twitter accounts on there, Ohio State Dylan. I don't know if Dylan, I don't know if you're watching or not. Brother, trust me. I don't know what it is about Ohio State. I have a hunch that this is a PO'd team. This is a team that is going to come in and they are going to make a statement. I don't know what it is. You have 2 of the best football players in college football that return on the offensive side of the ball in Julian Sain and Jeremiah Smith. Offensive line should be vastly improved. That was an area of concern from last year. Arthur Smith is a fantastic play caller that comes in from the NFL level. You have depth at just about every position. Bo Jackson is going to go down as arguably one of the most underrated running backs in the Big Ten. You have so much depth at every position, and I get it. The secondary has questions. The interior of your defensive line is going to have questions. But I have a really good feeling that this Ohio State team has a mission. They came in last year as the defending champs. They look like the best team in college football for 11 or 12 games. They got stomped in the Big Ten title by Indiana. They met their maker, and then they blew it against Miami when they had chances to win a game. Had plenty of chances to win. But if you and I are being honest about where this Ohio State team goes, there's a reason why I have them as my national championship favorite. I've been very vocal about them being my national championship favorite, dating all the way back to February. This Ohio State team is pissed. They're going to send a message, and I am excited when they send this message out to the entirety of college football that they're back. That this team never even came close to losing a freaking step. Never did. So, as we continue on, let's look at the rest of the field. All right. Like I mentioned, Miami is going to be in this one. This is my official top 12 for the playoff, if I can pull it up, because I know I had it here somewhere. But I already mentioned my top 4. I have Oregon at 5. I have Ole Miss coming in at 6. I have I have Texas coming in at 7. Or no, not Texas. I have Indiana at 7. I have Texas at 8. Houston at 9. I have BYU, or I have SMU at 10. I have BYU at 11, and my group of 6 team that I think is going to make the college football playoff is going to be Boise State. I believe in Maddox Madsen. We'll do a breakdown of Boise State later on at some point this week. But, so there you go. There's my first round matchups. Houston and Texas, I think Texas takes care of business. I think that the additions that they made through the portal are going to pay dividends. I think Houston, despite what they've done, I think they're one of the more improved teams in the Big 12. I have them playing in Arlington this year against BYU. They win the Big 12 title, they're going to be getting a top 8 seed. I think that BYU stays into the top 12 barely. They hang on and they get that 11 seed at the end of the day. But Texas with just too much firepower. They go on to play Miami. Oregon and Boise State, again, this should be no contest. Oregon has arguably one of the best rosters in college football. I do, however, expect a slip-up this year. Is Dan Lanning going to win a big game? That's obviously been the question for Oregon over the past 5 years that Dan Lanning has been there. You also have to address the issue that you lost Tosh Lupoy and Will Stein. Will we see a rematch of Oregon and Boise State? I think we're going to get an early preview this year. Will it happen again in the playoff? I say maybe so. Who knows? It's very, very possible. But I do expect for a team like Oregon to come out swinging. Easy win for them at home in Autzen. They go back and play Georgia in the quarterfinal. Indiana and SMU. As good as SMU is this year, I think they'll rebound really nicely with Kevin Jennings back fully healthy. I think their offensive line is one of the best in the ACC. They have a lot of returning production this year. A lot of people forget that Kevin Jennings was hurt this past year. That is what limited his mobility in 2026. Him being not able to scramble as good as he is used to. And you obviously have the other injury bugs that have hurt him over the last couple of years of his career. I think he gets back to that 2024 form, and I think this is his best season that we're going to expect from Kevin Jennings this year. Give me Indiana, though. The Signetti factor is real. Indiana is here to stay until proven otherwise. Whether you like it or not, this is a freaking good Indiana team. Josh Hoover could be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten when it's all said and done. You look at the additions that you brought, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think you're talking about another really solid Indiana team. It's not going to be like last year, but I think IU, when it is all said and done, takes this one in a hard-fought battle. They head out to Notre Dame for what could be the game of the freaking year. Ole Miss and BYU. Love BYU. I think this is a better matchup for Ole Miss compared to what they had this past season when they went and played Tulane. But right now, in my opinion, the team with the easiest road to get to the college football playoff, based on this alone, if I'm looking outside from 5 through 12, I would have to say that it very well could be Texas. Because do we know clearly that Miami is back? No, we don't. No, we don't. Do we know that, depending on what happens with Georgia and Oregon, do we expect a rematch between them? Who knows? Does the SEC get past the quarterfinal? I don't know. This is a massive year for the SEC. If they don't make a college football playoff national championship, to say the least, they've been shut out of it the last 3 seasons. They get shut out for a 4th straight year. This will prove that the tide has turned towards the Big Ten, and now you're going to see more of this happen where gone are the glory days of the SEC. The future is now sitting in Big Ten country. Bottom line. So, again, man, who knows what happens? there are a lot of things that can happen in the playoff. It's going to be a really, really fun season. I have a really good feeling about it. But my semifinals look like this. Miami plays Oregon. Miami's about to go on another big run, man. I think this is one of the more complete rosters in college football. Looking at where they are as a whole, I really, really do believe that Miami's roster, top to bottom, full of studs all around. Looking at what they did from the portal, you get Darian Mensah, who's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. I think that Oregon is going to struggle again against this secondary. I know that Oregon brings back so much talent. You have your 2 starting receivers that are going to be back healthy. But listen, you still got to face a young Miami secondary that is going to be on the hunt this year. Give me Oregon in that one. Give me Miami in that one. They play Ohio State for a national championship. They got Ohio State for a win. All right. Let's talk some G6 football. I want to bring on our G6 insider for us here at the Southern Sports Scene. Good friend of the show, other than our good friend Garrett Armbrust. Garrett, good to see you, my friend. How are you this fine evening?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on. Excited to talk some ball.
So you already saw my G6 pick for the college football playoff. I have Boise State going in. I've been back and forth all summer long going between UNLV and going from Boise State. But I don't know what it is. UNLV has yet to really find an answer at quarterback. And maybe that's a good thing because we've been hearing from the UNLV camp that Alex Orji has had the attitude of being the number one guy out in Las Vegas. Jackson Arnold has shown some flashes, but you're talking about 2 quarterbacks that are kind of had a similar type of career. But, I mean, I really don't know at the end of the day with what UNLV is going to bring overall from an offensive standpoint. I do know that Dan Mullen has a very good team ahead of him. I think that they have the pieces around him to be a playoff team. And I think they're arguably the favorites in the Mountain West Conference this year. When you look at that roster as a whole, you know, what excites you the most when you look at UNLV?
I mean, UNLV is always going to be an athletic team. Ever since Vernon Marion left 2 years ago, I wouldn't say I've had concerns with the offense, but you just felt like the offense was going to be a little bit different. I mean, obviously the go-go offense that Marion ran is going to be a little bit different than what Mullen's going to run. Mullen's still one hell of a coach, obviously, and a guy that was in the SEC, coached at Florida, has been at multiple spots in the SEC, comes out to UNLV, like you said, last year they had plenty of points, right? I mean, you have Jet Thomas in the backfield. They had Anthony Calandria last season. I thought Troy O'Meara leaving and going to New Mexico was kind of a big loss for them. I thought he was a guy that probably could have gone back up to the Power Four, ends up staying within the conference and goes over to X Group. So I thought that was kind of a big loss there. But I think overall right now, I mean, like you said, it's going to come down to what the quarterback play is going to be. You look at Jackson Arnold, and I thought he was going to go out to UNLV, kind of resurrect his career in a way with Dan Mullen, but it almost sounds like right now Alex Orji and him are still in a 50-50 battle. And if that's the case, I mean, Orji, obviously a good quarterback, played at Michigan, lost the job at the end of Calandria there. But, I mean, I remember week 0 last year against Idaho State. I mean, he played good in that game. He just wasn't QB1. And obviously They had the Mountain West Player of the Year on their team, Offensive Player of the Year in Calandria. But I think it's going to be a similar team to last season. I think they're going to put up a lot of points, and I think they're going to give up a lot of points.
So I figured that was going to be the case because that was going to be the biggest concern for me is I know I've the reason really why I've been so back and forth is Boise was always this team in the back of my mind. I can never count out Spencer Danielson's squad. You have a guy that's already been in the college football playoff at quarterback for you, Maddox Madison. I think he's made leaps and bounds. Everybody's talking about he's got to emerge from the shadow that Ashton Jeanty left behind. And I think he's done a really good job of doing that because he knows he isn't going to be Jeanty. He's not going to leave that type of legacy behind. What he does know how to do is be a game manager on the offensive side of the ball, and he understands the playbook at the end of the day. I think Boise's path to the college football playoff is a lot better knowing the personnel that you have, despite what you lost maybe through the transfer portal to some P4 guys.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Masden's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the G5 with Brad Jackson, Owen McCallum, some of those other guys. I thought he regressed a little bit last season. I thought he was a better quarterback in 2024. Obviously, Ashton Genty is your running back. When the defense is putting that much focus into the run game helps. But, I mean,
Yes.
the running back room right now, obviously they don't have maybe an RB1 like Genty, but, I mean, the Sire Gaines and Dylan Riley, RB1, 2-punch is the best running back duo in the group of 5. It's honestly one of the best running back duos in the entire country. Obviously, they've lost some wideouts over the past couple seasons, but to me, the biggest thing about Boise is they're going to be better at the line of scrimmage than most teams in the G5, if not every team in the G5. Now, Virgil Morgan, obviously, is a really good player coming off the edge. You have offensive linemen over the past couple of years that have been NFL draft picks. So I just think when it comes down to it at the end, Boise State is that team that can compete in a playoff game against a Power 4 team because they're not going to lose at the line of scrimmage and they're not going to get dominated by another team on the offensive line.
So switching gears, because I know I've tagged you in our group of 6 championship predictions. Sun Belt, I have Marshall and Troy. American Conference, I don't know what it is. I believe in UTSA and Jeff Traylor's company. Every other year, they always seem to have a massive year for them, a 10-11 win season. I believe in the offense of what they're building. Army, been one of the fastest rising teams at the end of last year. They have a young team this upcoming season. I think they'll be in they'll take that other American Conference championship position. CUSA, Liberty, I think, has a bounce back year. Western Kentucky is who they will face. I think Western Kentucky finally gets over that hump that Tyson Helton has been trying to get over for quite some time. The MAC championship, I think everything goes through Western Michigan at the end of the day. The only concern was who from the state of Ohio could compete with them, whether it be Miami or Ohio University. I think Miami, at the end of the day, with the experience they bring back, is the representative facing them. Here's where things get interesting, in my opinion. Mountain West Championship, Hawaii and New Mexico. Man, I love Jasonette. Man, that defense is going to be good. My only question is, what are you going to bring on the offensive side of the ball? That's why I think that Mountain West title, if Hawaii can find consistency on the defensive side of the ball, if everybody can be healthy that Hawaii likes, Micah Alejado is going to be the best G6 quarterback in the entire country. That's why I have them there. And then Boise State at San Diego State. Again, I think San Diego State's defense is not going to really take much of a step back. And we've already talked about what Boise State has done. I think Maddox Madison has a bounce back season. I think he takes a big step forward for this year. Thoughts on that? I know that you expressed your concern over Hawaii's defense and, expressed some other things around my predictions. Who do you have?
I mean, I think Hawaii, they're a team that obviously has the ceiling to get there. Offensively, the question marks are going to be Pavel Ashlock. Obviously, he's injured right now. Is he going to start the season? I think Audric Harris, who comes over, is a guy that can kind of step into that role. Some people that I've talked to and stuff, they think that he's going to be the guy that's going to kind of be the Pavel Ashlock, Nick Senecal, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 guy that's been over there over the past couple seasons. For me, too, just the defense, there's going to be question marks. What Hawaii has going for them is, them playing a home game is so much bigger for them than any other team because they don't have to travel. If you're traveling from the mainland and you're coming from the 48 main states over in the U.S. and you're traveling over on a 4-hour flight to Hawaii and you're, having a 3 to 6 hour time change, depending on where you are, that messes with your mind and your body for the week. So I do think Hawaii in that aspect has a little bit of an advantage. I still think New Mexico is the team to beat, in my opinion, in the Mountain West, as long as their quarterback can stay healthy. Like I said, I like Troy O'Meara. I really like Eck as a coach. Their defense, I think, is going to be really good this season. So I think the Mountain West this season is going to be New Mexico, and I think North Dakota State's an interesting team too. You talk about teams that can win at the line of scrimmage. I think North Dakota State's going to be able to come up year one at the FBS, and they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage.
That week 1 game against Jacksonville State has my attention. I think if NDSU wins that football game, I think we're looking at them seriously as a CUSA contender when it's all said and done. Like you mentioned, the question is, are they going to dominate the line of scrimmage like they were during their long championship years with the coaches that have come long before?
And Jacksonville State's a team that I got in the Conference USA championship game. I think them, Liberty, and Western Kentucky are the 3 best teams. I think you can make arguments about Delaware with Minucci coming back. Obviously, I think FIU is going to be a solid team. I think that Willie Simmons is a really good coach. I like what their roster is. I think J.J. Cole coming over from App State's going to be a pretty good quarterback. And then Kennesaw State, obviously their roster was completely rated, but you saw what they did. They
still have the personnel to be a bowl eligible team.
Exactly. So, if you can do that in year 1 with a roster that, truthfully, I don't think many people thought were going to be that competitive last season. And then they went to Wake Forest week 1 and almost won outright. And then, their season obviously transformed from there. So I think there's 5 or 6 teams in the Conference USA that, have a chance to make it. But in my opinion, Western Kentucky, Liberty, and Jack State are the 3 favorites.
I've never seen a deeper CUSA than I have this year. Really the entirety of the group of 6, there just seems like half of the field you could have a strong argument could be a holiday type of season bowl contender. And I'd say probably 5 to 10 could be college football playoff worthy to get that 12 seed at the end of the day. This is just incredible to me. I'm glad that you mentioned Delaware. Saw them in the 68 Ventures Bowl. Love what Nick Minicucci brings to the table. Delaware, by the way, hey, if y'all want to use my clip, please. I know y'all love – dude, let me tell you, I never would have imagined I got a better video than when Nick Minicucci runs up to my camera and starts yelling his head off. And then the entire freaking team surrounds my camera that entire game, bro. That was such an amazing experience.
That's awesome.
But a couple more things before we let you go, because I know you're kind of short on time. So I wanted to bring this up to you, and I thought this was an interesting discussion. So last month, whenever I was at Sunbelt Media Days, Commissioner Keith Gill basically said, hey, the Sun Belt is the SEC of the group of 6. I agreed to him to an extent. I also say, show me the bowl record. The CUSA has had their way the last 2 to 3 years with them in these types of bowl games. So I got to ask you this. If you are ranking them right now, the respective G6 conferences at this point in time, we're talking about CUSA, a team that half of the teams that are in the conference at the beginning of the decade were playing in the FCS.
Right.
And you see the production that they have shown despite the expansion, despite all the realignment that has gone on with that conference. Do you really believe that the Sun Belt still is the SEC of the G6?
Yeah. You speak to the bowl games last year. I'm trying to think. Delaware obviously beat Louisiana. Western Kentucky and Southern Miss played. Yes. Western Kentucky won that game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That was in the New Orleans Bowl. What other ones?
I think Southern Miss had, a double-digit touchdown lead in that football game. Western Kentucky shuts them down defensively in the second half, dude.
I just think the Sun Belt, to me, it's not a shot at the Sun Belt. I think they're one of the, weakest G5 conferences going into this season. Some of their historic teams, Georgia Southern, I think Georgia Southern's a 4 or 5 win team this season. I think Marshall and Troy will be pretty good. JMU's kind of a wild card, obviously. They've kind of been coach proof. Whoever is their coach, they're good. They lose Signetti. Chesney comes in. Chesney's good. Now they lose Chesney. I would expect Napier to be good. But, right. There just seems to be a lot of just kind of mid in that conference. Like Arkansas State, they're not going to be horrible, but they're not going to win you a ton of games. Louisiana, right. They're not going to be horrible, but they're going to win you a couple games. And then they have some teams in their conference that, Del McGee and Georgia State, they're in a tough spot right now. Louisiana Monroe, I think, has the smallest budget of any FBS team in the country athletic-wise. Obviously all these teams have had pieces. I mean, whether it was South Alabama a couple years ago, they had Gio Lopez and Fluff Bothwell. ULM, obviously, I mean, they had their pieces, but they had Ahmad Hardy a couple seasons ago. But I don't know. Obviously, Georgia State, Ted Hurst. But to me, I just think that the Sun Belt right now is, I mean, they may be slightly ahead of the MAC in the Conference USA top to bottom, but I don't think they're in the same conference. I mean, the same conversation as the Mountain West, the Pac-12, and the American. To me is by far the best. I think there's 9 or 10 teams that can win the American this season.
Why on earth is the Pac-12 still claiming that they're part of the Power Five?
I mean, they're definitely a G5 conference, right? I mean, it's going to be Utah State, Boise. I mean, Boise State obviously is basically a power program, but I mean, the rest of their conference, Oregon State and Washington State, since they've been left on the island with their TV deal once the Pac-12 has exploded. I mean, especially Oregon State, they've been really bad over the past couple seasons, and I do like what Jamarcus Shepard brings to them, but again, they're probably a 5-win team, 4-win team.
So that's the biggest gripe I've had too is Oregon State's fan base. They do not like the truth. I have told your friend this fan base this multiple times, and I've heard many people say, "Hey man, Oregon State could be a dark horse for the group of 5, for the group of 6," and I look at them and I say, "You can at least double your wins. You can at least beat a team that went 2-10 this past year. You lost to Sam Houston. This was arguably the worst team in the FBS this past season. And you're going to sit here and tell me that you're going to go from 2-10 one year and then Jamarcus Shepard just has all the tools in place so that they can turn that program around. I don't see it. And Oregon State did this to themselves. They don't have the resume. They don't have the budget to spend a ton of money in the portal right now, and it's hurting them.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And they've lost, a lot of their pieces. I thought the Braden Atkinson's pickup was good. The Mercer quarterback, I mean, he was the best, young FCS quarterback in the country last season. But, I mean, at the end of the day, is he going to be able to have the pieces to throw the football to? Is he going to have the offensive line to be able to protect him? I don't know. I just feel like those two teams right now are in a tough spot because, especially with, the other teams in their state, Washington and Oregon are obviously completely ahead of them. Oregon is a national title contender, and Washington would be one of my teams that's a dark horse to make the college football playoff. So I just think whether you want to call it the big brothers in their states or whatever you want to refer to it as, the other two, state schools are in much better spots than they are right now after they've gone to the Big Ten.
Last couple things for you. Who do you have going to the college football playoff coming from the group of 6?
I got Boise with you. I just think that, I think Masden will bounce back to what he was in 24. I think, again, you have the line of scrimmage play. You have the 2 running backs and an offensive line where you can kind of just run it down the other team's throat. You have defensive pieces. I like them getting Jericho Washington from Kennesaw State. I thought that was one of the more underrated pickups in the transfer portal cycle, at least for a secondary player in the G5. Look, there might be teams in the American that could potentially be better. A UTSA, maybe a Memphis, South Florida. Maybe one of those teams is really good, and maybe they beat a power conference team. I just think that they're going to kind of self-cannibalize themselves in conference play. I don't think you're going to be able to get through the American this season with less than a loss.
Garrett Armbrust, you can check him out if you are in the Knoxville area. He's the host of Overtime over on Fox Sports Knoxville. Garrett, I'm sure we'll see each other again pretty soon. We'll probably be in the talks of potentially having you on a little bit more during the season.
Let's do it.
Excited to work with you once again, brother. Thank you for your time. We'll see you very soon. Always appreciate you talking with us about all around the G6. It's always a fun conversation.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Later, Garrett.
Later, man.
That's Garrett Armbrust over from Overtime. You can check him out on Fox Sports Knoxville. Follow him on X at 4th and Saturday. And I'm telling you, you want to talk about degenerates in college football, that's probably one of the biggest degenerates that you will meet in your lifetime. The dude literally breathes all college football. And to be honest with you, I'm going to be joining him this year. We talking Maction on, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday. whenever action typically is. CUSA, and then you have your Thursday and Fridays. So always fun to talk with Garrett. He's been one of the better G6 analysts out there. I'm telling you, this dude is really, really good with what he does. All right, let's continue to move along with our discussion. So let's talk about the Jayden Daniels situation. And we knew that this was going to be a point of emphasis today. Jayden Daniels the other day sent a cease and desist letter to LSU. Really, it wasn't Jayden, but it was his team that sent a cease and desist letter that talked about you cannot use my name, image, and my likeness at the end of the day. Let's talk about this. Jayden Daniels is not Joe Burrow. He acts like because he won a Heisman Trophy, because he had a fantastic season, I'm not taking away from that. Here is what I have an issue with. It is the fact that this guy thinks he is bigger than the program. That ultimately is what this is all about. It does. It's the bottom line. So I think at the end of the day, you know what this basically says? Hey, man, we're going to go ahead and sever ties with our organization, with the LSU family. Congratulations, JD5. You know what you've done? You have now split the relationship that you had with LSU. If you try to call and say, hey, can I get tickets to such and such game? Oh, why will we give tickets to you? You want free tickets? You want sideline access? Go buy them yourself online. That's what you basically told him. Jayden Daniels has nobody to blame but his own team. This is all a family issue as well. When you have his mom who represents him, and I believe that she's one of his agents, or at least she is his agent, it causes a lot of frustration and headache within the program. So this is where you have to be real with yourself, and you have to look overall at what his legacy is. Fantastic football player, but he didn't have the same impact as a guy like Tim Tebow, who won a national championship and did all these amazing things off the field. Fantastic human being. I got to meet him. The guy is as genuine as can be. Absolutely enjoyed talking to Tim Tebow. You have that. You have guys like Troy Smith at Ohio State that won a Heisman Trophy, led Ohio State to a national title. You don't see him complaining about his jersey not being retired. You don't see Tim Tebow complaining about his jersey not being retired. Alabama, since 2009, 3 of their 4 Heisman Trophy winners won a national title. Have you heard them complain about their name, image, and likeness being used? Do you hear Devontae Smith complaining about his number 6 still being worn? Do you hear Derrick Henry complaining about his number 2 being worn? What about Mark Ingram's number 22? What about Bryce Young's 9? The entitlement is ridiculous. Not one single individual is bigger than a program. So it makes no sense for a guy like Jayden's like Jayden and his family, to come out and make these claims. Now, I also understand about the things that have been said in the Daniels camp. There's also been the other side of this whole ordeal where Jayden said, hey, I'm not on board with DJ Pickett wearing my number 5. Well, here's the thing. DJ Pickett asked to wear the number 5 whenever he was there. So that was a promise that was made when Brian Kelly was on staff there during his recruitment. That's where LSU messed up. Is that if he wasn't on board, I understand that. In my opinion, a number is still a number. So why make a big ordeal over this? This is stupid. So I don't know. And then you have the whole world literally against you for it. All right, let me get to some comments. Looking at Facebook right now, my guy Steve Easterlin is in the chat. He says Indiana is 8-4 this year. That's a very, very bold claim. I'm curious to hear the 8 losses, but I don't know, man. I don't see it. I think this team is way too talented. They bring back way too much. So I'm assuming the 4 losses would be Ohio State, at Michigan, USC, and Washington. Either that or at Nebraska, which I don't see them losing to Nebraska. So there's that. What else do we have? My guy, Coach Robbie, says that he saw my application. I appreciate you. I'm going to be sending an application every freaking week, Coach Rob. I'm telling you. We need a fullback again. Let's bring back the fullback. Hey, who else but me to bring the fullback back? That hurts his legacy to even have LSU even mention you as a plus for him. Exactly. That's more publicity for them, and it's more publicity for himself as well. So he doesn't have the power to make a demand at the end of the day. But I also am very, very skeptical about everything that happened behind the scenes, how this was handled from the recruiting standpoint, from where things turned and how things are now. So who knows what's going to happen with this whole situation. But man, this is a mess. This has really been a mess that we've seen from this whole Jayden Daniels situation. It just shows you how much entitlement there was and how much he feels like he was owed. It just doesn't make sense, man. And I don't think it ever will until we get clear answers at the end of the day. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for us here on another great episode of the Southern Sports Scene. Make sure y'all do us a favor. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below for the best content available around all things college football. We're going to be starting our Week 0 preview starting tomorrow. We're going to get into those. Excited to break them all down with you. Y'all, once again, hit the like and share and subscribe button down below. Always appreciate you guys tuning on in. Make sure to follow me on all the socials. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed and do not stress. Y'all have a great rest of the week. We will see you guys once again on Tuesday. So y'all have a great rest of the week. We'll see you soon.